Who are you? She asked, her voice hoarse, dark eyes narrowing as she pulled the blanket closer. Her brown skin glistened faintly with snowflakes under the streetlight. The man gestured to the limousine. Our employer wants to speak with you. Please come with us. His tone was polite but firm, lacking menace, yet carrying an unsettling authority. The second silent man opened the car door, revealing a glimpse of leather seats and soft lighting. Amara's mind raced. She'd faced dangerous strangers before, but this felt different, calculated, not cruel. The cold gnawed at her bones, and the promise of warmth was tempting even for a moment. If you're hooked on this mystery already, hit that like button to let me know you're with Amara on this wild ride. Hesitating, she stood clutching her blanket like a lifeline and followed them to the limousine. The interior was a shock to her senses. Warm air enveloped her, thawing her numb fingers. The scent of leather and faint cologne filled the space, starkly contrasting the street's damp chill. A man's voice drew her attention as she sank into the plush seat. Good evening, Ms. Johnson. I'm Ethan Caldwell. Ethan, a 35-year-old white American with pale skin and sharp blue eyes, sat across from her. His tailored suit screamed wealth, but his posture was stiff, almost nervous. His neatly combed brown hair framed a face with confidence and a flicker of unease. I trust you're wondering why I've brought you here, he continued, his tone measured. Amara nodded, her guard up. How do you know my name? And what do you want? Her voice trembled, but her gaze was steady, demanding answers. Ethan leaned forward slightly. I have contacts at local shelters. I learned about your situation, your resilience. I'm here with a proposal. He paused, as if choosing his words carefully. I need you to pose as my fiancée tonight for a business dinner with an investor, Victor Langston. It's critical for a deal that could save my company. Amara's brow furrowed. Fiancé. Why me? The word deal felt like a trap, but the warmth of the car dulled her urge to bolt. Ethan's eyes softened, though his voice remained businesslike. Victor doubts my stability. He's traditional, with strong biases. I believe presenting a fiancée, a black woman like yourself, might challenge his prejudices and make him see me as grounded, open-minded. In return, I'll compensate you generously, enough to get you off the streets, maybe start fresh. Her stomach twisted. The offer was salvation wrapped in indignity. She thought of her mother's blanket, her dreams of a bakery, and the endless nights praying for safety. You're buying me, she said flatly, her dark eyes locking onto his pale ones. Ethan winced. It's a business arrangement. You help me, I help you. No strings beyond tonight. He pulled a bundle of cash from his pocket, high-value bills that caught Amara's breath. It was more money than she'd ever seen. The weight of her situation pressed down. She was 28, homeless and starving, but her pride stung at being used especially to play into someone's prejudices. Yet the alternative was another night in the cold. If I do this, it's for me, not you, she said, her voice firm. And I want answers about how you found me. Ethan nodded. Fair. My assistant, Lena Harper, can explain more. She's waiting to help you prepare. He knocked on the partition and the driver started the engine. The limousine glided forward, snowflakes blurring past the tinted windows. As they moved through the festive streets, Amara's heart raced. Was she stepping into a mistake? The Christmas lights outside seemed to mock her uncertainty, their glow a reminder of a world she didn't belong to. If you're as curious as Amara about what's next, subscribe to catch every twist in this story. I promise, it's just getting started. The car stopped at a luxury hotel, and Ethan gestured for her to follow. As she stepped out clutching her blanket, a woman approached. Lena Harper, 40. A black American with warm brown skin and a confident stride, smiled gently. I'm Lena, she said. Let's get you ready for tonight. Her presence eased Amara's nerves, but the question lingered. Could she trust Ethan, or was this deal the start of something she'd regret? The limousine glided through the snowy streets of New York, its hum starkly contrasting the chaos of Amara's thoughts. She sat stiffly on the leather seat, her mother's tattered blanket draped over her lap like a shield. The warmth of the car seeped into her chilled bones, a luxury that felt both comforting and alien. Outside, Christmas lights twinkled on storefronts, their festive glow mocking her uncertainty. Ethan sat across from her, his polished suit catching the dim light, his expression a mix of determination and unease. The scent of his sharp and sophisticated cologne filled the air, reminding Amara of the gulf between their worlds. She tightened her grip on the blanket, its worn fibers grounding her. "You still haven't explained how you found me," she said, her voice steady, despite the tremor in her chest. "Shelter records, you said. That's not enough. Who told you about me?" Ethan's jaw tightened briefly, as if weighing how much to reveal. "I have contacts in the city's outreach programs," he said finally. "A social worker mentioned your name, someone who'd seen you at a shelter, noted your resilience despite everything. I needed someone honest, someone Victor Langston wouldn't expect. That's you." Amara's eyes narrowed. "So you picked me because I'm desperate easy to buy." The word stung as it left her lips, a reminder of her indignity. She thought of her mother, who'd taught her to hold her head high, even when they had nothing but each other. Ethan leaned forward, his blue eyes catching hers. "I'm not buying you, Amara. I'm offering a deal. One night, one dinner, and you walk away with enough money to change your life. A new start, maybe that bakery you used to dream about." His voice softened, but it had a calculated edge, like a salesman closing a pitch. Her stomach twisted. He knew about her dreams. The social worker must have shared more than her name. The thought of her private hopes being used as leverage made her skin prickle. But the mention of a bakery, a dream she'd buried after her mother's death, stirred something profound. She pictured a small shop with warm lights and a fresh bread smell, a place where she could rebuild. But at what cost? "You're using me to play a part," she said, "to impress some bigot who'd rather see me on the street than at his table." Ethan's face tightened, a flicker of guilt crossing his features. "Victor Langston is difficult. He's old school, set in his ways. He thinks I'm too focused on business and not grounded enough for his investment. Presenting a fiancé. Someone like you shows him I'm committed, open-minded. It's a risk, but it could shift his perspective." Amara scoffed, her breath fogging the window beside her. "You mean it's a stunt? You're using my skin color to prove you're not like him. That's not a deal. It's a game." Her voice was sharp, but the warmth of the car, the promise of money, dulled her urge to walk away. She hated how tempting it was, how the thought of a hot meal and a bed made her pride waver. Ethan's hands clasped together, his knuckles pale. "It sounds manipulative, and it may be. But this deal could save my company's jobs, projects, and people's livelihoods. And for you, it's a way out. $5,000 for one night. No strings after that." He reached into his coat, pulling out a stack of bills, the crisp edges glinting in the low light. "This is yours. Win or lose if you agree." The sight of the money hit Amara like a wave. It was more than she'd seen in years, enough to rent a room, buy food, maybe even enroll in a cooking class to restart her dream. But it felt dirty, like she was selling a piece of herself. She thought of her mother's voice, urging her to keep her dignity, never to let anyone define her worth. Yet the cold reality of the streets loomed larger. Just that morning, she'd been kicked out of a shelter, her belongings stuffed into a single bag. Could she afford to say no? "If I do this," she said, her voice low, "it's because I have no choice. But don't think for a second I trust you." She met his gaze, her dark eyes fierce. And I want Lena there. Someone I can talk to, not just your hired men. Ethan nodded, a faint relief in his expression. Lena's already waiting at the hotel. She'll help you get ready, clothes, everything you need for tonight. He tapped the partition, and the driver turned toward a glowing hotel. You won't be alone in this. Amara looked out the window, the city's festive lights blurring past. The blanket in her lap felt heavier, a reminder of her mother's lessons. Survival wasn't enough. It had to mean something. Was this deal a betrayal of that, or a step toward reclaiming her life? She didn't know, but the warmth of the car, the promise of money, and the faint hope of a new start kept her from opening the door and running back to the cold. The limousine slowed as it approached the hotel, its grand facade lit with wreaths and golden lights. Ethan adjusted his tie, and his movements were precise but tense. We'll stop here first, he said. Lena will take you to a boutique to get something to wear. I'll meet you both before we head to Victor's. His voice was calm, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of doubt, as if he too wondered if this plan would unravel. Amara clutched her blanket tighter, her heart pounding. She was stepping into a world she didn't belong to, playing a role she didn't understand for a man she didn't trust. The Christmas lights outside seemed to flicker with warning, but the ache in her stomach and the chill in her bones pushed her forward. As the driver opened the door, a gust of cold air hit her, and she steeled herself. Whatever lay ahead, she'd face it on her terms. The hotel's revolving doors ushered Amara into a gleaming marble and soft jazz world, a far cry from the icy sidewalk she'd left behind. Her tattered blanket, still clutched in her arms, felt like an anchor as she followed Lena through the opulent lobby. The air smelled of pine and polished wood, with a towering Christmas tree adorned with silver ornaments dominating the space. Amara's worn sneakers squeaked on the floor, drawing subtle glances from guests in tailored coats. She straightened her shoulders, refusing to shrink under their stares. Lena led her to an elevator, and her confident stride contrasted with Amara's hesitation. Lena said, we're heading to a boutique a few blocks away, her voice warm but professional. Ethan's arranged everything, clothes, accessories, whatever you need tonight. Her smile was genuine, easing the knot in Amara's chest. Lena felt like a lifeline, a reminder that not everyone in Ethan's world was cold or calculating. The boutique was a glass-fronted sanctuary of luxury, its windows glowing with mannequins in sleek gowns. Inside, racks of silk and velvet lined the walls, and the air carried a faint scent of lavender. Amara's blanket felt out of place, but she draped it over her arm, unwilling to let it go. The staff, two women in crisp blouses, exchanged glances as Amara entered, their eyes lingering on her frayed jacket. One whispered to the other, her words inaudible, but her tone sharp. Amara's jaw tightened, the familiar sting of judgment cutting deep. Lena noticed and stepped forward, her voice firm. Ms. Johnson is here as Mr. Caldwell's guest. I expect your full attention and respect. The women froze their faces, flushing, and nodded quickly. Amara's heart lifted at Lena's defense, a rare moment of someone standing up for her. Thank you, she murmured, meeting Lena's eyes. Let's find something that feels like you, Lena said, guiding her to a rack of dresses. As they sifted through fabrics, Lena shared a piece of her own story. I started as a temp in Ethan's office years ago. I grew up in a rough neighborhood and worked through night school. I know what feeling out of place in rooms like this is like. Her candor surprised Amara, forging a quiet connection. You fought for this, Amara said, her voice soft. I want that kind of strength. You've got it, Lena replied, holding up a burgundy dress with a simple, elegant cut. Try this. It's bold, but not flashy, perfect for you. Amara slipped into the fitting room, the dress gliding over her skin like a second chance. She saw a confident woman in the mirror, even if she didn't feel it yet. The deep red fabric hugged her curves, its understated design, letting her presence speak for itself. For a moment, she imagined her mother's proud smile. Stepping out, she caught Lena's approving nod. "You look stunning," Lena said. "Victor Langston won't know what hit him." The mention of Victor snapped Amara back to reality. This wasn't about her, but Ethan's deal a charade to impress a man who'd likely sneer at her existence. Her stomach churned, but she pushed the thought aside, focusing on the task ahead. As they finalized the outfit shoes, a simple necklace. Ethan's driver arrived with a sleek phone, its screen gleaming. Mr. Caldwell said, handing it to Amara. "So you can stay in touch." She took it, her fingers brushing the cold metal, suspicion flaring. Why did Ethan need her reachable? Was this another way to control her? She pocketed it, resolving to keep her guard up. At the register, the staff processed Ethan's payment with practiced efficiency, their earlier judgment replaced by forced politeness. Amara carried her new clothes in glossy bags, the blanket still tucked under her arm. Outside, the snow fell harder, swirling under streetlights. Lena glanced at her. "You okay? Tonight's going to be tough, but you're not alone. I'll be there and I've got your back." Amara nodded, her throat tight. "I'm doing this for me, not him." "But why do you trust Ethan? He's using me to play some game with a bigot." Lena sighed, her breath visible in the cold. "Ethan's not perfect. He's driven, sometimes blind, to how his plans hurt people. But he's not cruel. I've seen him fight for his team for projects that matter. This dinner is about saving jobs, not just his ego. Still, I told him this plan's risky, especially for you." The honesty steadied Amara. Lena wasn't just an assistant. She'd navigated her heart and chose to stay in Ethan's orbit. "I don't trust him," Amara admitted, "but I trust you. That's enough for now." Lena smiled, a spark of solidarity passing between them. The limousine waited at the curb, its engine humming softly. As they climbed in, Amara glanced at the boutique's glowing windows, the Christmas lights reflecting like stars. She felt transformed, not just by the dress, but by Lena's support and her resolve. Tonight, she'd play Ethan's fiancée, but she'd do it with her eyes open. Her mother's blanket, a reminder of who she was. The car pulled away, carrying her toward a dinner that could change everything or break her completely. The limousine rolled to a stop before Victor Langston's mansion, its stone facade glowing under floodlights that cut through the snowy night. Amara's breath caught as she stepped out, the burgundy dress clinging elegantly to her frame, her mother's blanket folded carefully in her bag. The air was sharp and cold, and Christmas lights twinkled along the driveway, their cheer at odds with the knot in her stomach. Ethan offered his arm, his suit impeccable, but his jaw tightened. Lena followed close behind her presence, reassuring as they approached the grand entrance. Inside the mansion was a spectacle of wealth. Crystal chandeliers cast prisms across marble floors, and the scent of exotic flowers mingled with the murmur of elite guests. Amara felt every eye on her, their glances a mix of curiosity and judgment. She lifted her chin, drawing strength from Lena's earlier words, but the weight of her role as Ethan's fake fiancée pressed heavily. The soft clink of champagne flutes and the hum of a string quartet only heightened her sense of being an outsider. Victor Langston emerged from the crowd, his silver hair slicked back, his smile sharp as a blade. His tailored tuxedo and commanding presence made him the evening's puppet master. "Ethan, my boy," he said, shaking Ethan's hand with a grip that lingered too long. His eyes slid to Amara, appraising her from head to toe. "And this must be your fiancée. Amara, is it?" His tone was polished, but a subtle edge hinted at disdain. "Yes," Amara said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Langston." She extended her hand, which he took briefly, his grip cold and perfunctory. "The pleasure's mine," Victor replied, his smile not reaching his eyes. Ethan's told me so much about you, quite the unexpected match. The word unexpected carried a sting, and Amara's fingers tightened around Ethan's arm. She felt Lena's gaze from behind, urging her to stay composed. Victor led them through the grand hall, weaving past guests who whispered behind their glasses. Ethan, you've always struck me as a man too busy for romance. What changed? His question was a trap, and Amara felt the air thicken. Ethan's hand tensed under the table. Amara changed everything he said, his voice firm but strained. She's shown me what matters. His words were meant to sound heartfelt, but they rang hollow under Victor's scrutiny. Victor chuckled, a low, chilling sound. A refreshing perspective. Though I wonder, Amara, how you find this world of ours. It's pretty different from simpler circumstances. The jab at her past was unmistakable, and Amara's blood heated. He knew somehow he knew about her homelessness. She forced a smile, her voice steady. I find it fascinating, Mr. Langston. People are the same everywhere. Some lift you, others try to tear you down. Her words carried a quiet defiance, and Ethan's hand brushed hers, a small gesture of support. Victor's eyes narrowed, but he moved on, engaging Ethan in business talk, laced with subtle barbs. As the dinner progressed, his comments grew sharper, veiled insults about unconventional pairings and surprising choices. Amara's composure wavered, each remark a reminder of her role as a prop in Ethan's game. Ethan countered with measured responses, but his restraint felt inadequate, leaving Amara to fend off Victor's probing alone. Victor pulled Amara aside as they rose to leave, his voice low. I've done my research, Ms. Johnson. Be careful. Secrets don't stay buried long. The threat sent a shiver down her spine. His cologne sharp in her nose as she stepped back. Ethan, noticing her distress, moved to her side, but Victor was already retreating into the crowd, his smile victorious. In the limousine, silence hung heavy. Amara stared out the window, the Christmas lights blurring through her unshed tears. Victor's words echoed her past, her vulnerability weaponized against her. Ethan reached for her hand, but she pulled away, her voice tight. He knows who I am. This was a mistake. Sitting across from them, Lena exchanged a worried glance with Ethan, but Amara focused on the city outside, its festive glow, a cruel contrast to the storm brewing within her. The limousine's warmth did little to thaw the chill in Amara's heart as it pulled away from Victor Langston's mansion. The Christmas lights outside blurred into streaks of red and gold, their festive glow a cruel reminder of her humiliation. Victor's parting words, I've done my research, Ms. Johnson. Be careful, echoed in her mind, each syllable a jab at her past. She sat rigid, her burgundy dress now feeling like a costume, her mother's blanket tucked in her bag, a silent anchor. Ethan sat beside her, his hands clasped tightly, his silence heavy with unspoken regret. Lena across from them glanced between them, her expression a mix of concern and restraint. Amara's phone buzzed in her pocket, the sleek device Ethan had given her earlier that evening. She pulled it out, expecting a message from him, but the screen displayed an unknown number. The text was short. Stark, Ethan's done this before. Be careful. Her breath caught her fingers tightening around the phone. The words felt like a second blow piling onto Victor's threat. Had Ethan manipulated someone else this way, using their desperation for his gain? The thought made her stomach churn, her trust in him already fragile crumbling further. She glanced at Ethan, his profile sharp against the dim light, his jaw clenched as if wrestling with his thoughts. She wanted to confront him, to demand answers, but the weight of the night held her back. Instead, she turned to Lena, who was watching her closely. Can we talk? Alone. Amara asked, her voice low but firm. Lena nodded, catching Ethan's eye. "We're dropping Amara and me at the hotel," she said. Ethan opened his mouth as if to protest, but closed it, nodding stiffly. The limousine stopped at the hotel's glowing entrance, and Amara stepped out, the cold air biting her bare arms. Lena followed her through the lobby to a quiet lounge area where a small Christmas tree twinkled in the corner. They sat on plush chairs, the blanket resting in Amara's lap like a shield. "What's wrong?" Lena asked, her voice gentle but direct. "I saw your face when you checked your phone." Amara handed her the device, but the message still glowed on the screen. Lena read it, her brow furrowing. It's not surprising," she said, exhaling. "But it's not as simple as it sounds. Let me explain." She leaned forward, her eyes steady. Years ago, Ethan was in a bind with another investor. He convinced a former girlfriend to play up their relationship to secure a deal unlike what he's doing with you. It wasn't about money, but it was manipulative. She left him when she found out, and he's carried the guilt ever since. This message is from someone in Victor's circle, maybe an associate trying to sabotage Ethan by stirring doubt. Amara's chest tightened. "So he has a history of using people. Why should I believe he's any different now?" Her voice wavered, anger mingling with hurt. She thought of her mother, who'd warned her against trusting those who saw her as a means to an end. The memory of Victor's smug smile, his insinuation about her past, burned alongside the anonymous warning. Lena's expression softened. "I'm not defending what he did. I called him out when he proposed this plan with you. It's too close to his old mistakes. But I've worked with Ethan for years. He's not heartless. He's desperate to save his company and saw you as a way to challenge Victor's biases. It's messy, but he wants to help you too. That said, you need to decide what you're comfortable with." Amara stared at the Christmas tree, its lights blurring through unshed tears. The message confirmed her fears. Ethan's deal was a gamble, and she was the pawn. Yet Lena's honesty and willingness to criticize Ethan gave Amara a sliver of clarity. "Who do you think sent it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "My guess. Victor's assistant, Clara. She's loyal to him, and Victor's the type to dig up dirt and use others to deliver it. He's probably hoping you'll walk away, leaving Ethan exposed." Lena's tone was matter-of-fact, but her eyes held empathy. "What do you want to do?" "Amara, you don't owe Ethan anything, but you're not powerless here." Amara's fingers traced the blanket's frayed edge, her mind racing. She remembered her mother's final days, teaching her to cook simple recipes in their tiny apartment, urging her to hold on to her dreams despite hardship. Becoming homeless had stripped away so much, but not her resolve. Victor's threat and the anonymous message felt like attempts to break her, to reduce her to her past. But she wasn't just a homeless woman. She was Amara, who'd survived loss and betrayal. "I need to talk to Ethan," she said finally. "Not tonight, but soon. I won't let Victor or anyone else control me." Lena nodded, a faint smile breaking through. "That's the spirit. Take your time. You're staying in the hotel tonight, Ethan's orders. Get some rest, and we'll figure out the next step tomorrow." She stood, offering a hand to help Amara up. As they walked to the elevator, Amara's mind churned. The anonymous message was a warning, and a spark igniting her determination to confront Ethan and reclaim her agency. The hotel's festive decorations, wreaths, garlands, felt distant, their warmth unable to touch the storm within her. She didn't know if she could trust Ethan, but she knew one thing: she wouldn't let Victor's malice or Ethan's past define her path. She'd sleep under a roof tonight, but she'd face the truth head-on tomorrow. The hotel room's heavy curtains blocked out the festive glow of New York's Christmas lights, leaving Amara in a cocoon of dim silence. She sat on the edge of the bed, her mother's tattered blanket spread across her lap, its familiar texture a faint comfort against the storm in her chest. Victor Langston's threat. I've done my research, and the anonymous message, Ethan's done this before, replayed in her mind, each word a weight pulling her deeper into doubt. The burgundy dress hung in the closet was a reminder of the charade she'd played at the mansion, and the phone Ethan gave her sat dark on the nightstand. Its warning message, a silent accusation. Amara's thoughts drifted to her past, a history she'd buried to survive. 5 years ago, she'd been a culinary student, her days filled with the aroma of baking bread and her mother's laughter as they tested recipes in their cramped Brooklyn apartment. When her mother fell ill, hospital bills drained their savings, and Amara dropped out to work odd jobs. After her mother's death, a lost lease and a cruel landlord left her on the streets, her dreams of a bakery fading with each night spent in shelters or under awnings. The blanket, her mother's last gift, was all that remained of those warmer days. Victor's words had cut deep, exposing her vulnerability, and the anonymous message, likely from his assistant Clara, as Lena suspected, confirmed Ethan's history of manipulation. Amara felt like a pawn in a game she hadn't chosen, her desperation exploited by both men. Yet Lena's honesty had sparked something in her, a resolve to reclaim her dignity, to stop letting others define her worth. She couldn't stay in this hotel hiding behind Ethan's money. She needed answers, and she needed them on her terms. With trembling hands, she gathered her few belongings, her blanket, the phone, a change of clothes, and slipped out of the room. The hotel's festive lobby, with its glittering tree and soft carols, felt suffocating. She paid for a night at a cheap boarding house across town, using some of Ethan's cash. The clerk, an older man with tired eyes, recognized her from past stays, but asked no questions, taking her money and pointing down a dim hallway to a room. Inside, the peeling walls and creaky bed were a stark contrast to the hotel's luxury, but they felt honest, like the life she'd known. Amara spread the blanket over the bed, sinking beside it. Tears welled as she traced its frayed edges, remembering her mother's voice. "You're stronger than you know, Amara. Don't let anyone take that from you." The memory clashed with her current reality, playing a fake fiancé, enduring Victor's sneers and doubting Ethan's intentions. The anonymous message gnawed at her. If Ethan had manipulated someone else, what stopped him from discarding her once Victor's deal was done? Yet his fleeting moments of kindness, how he defended her, however weakly, muddied her judgment. She decided to confront him, not out of loyalty, but to reclaim her agency. She wouldn't run from this mess. She'd face it, demand the truth, and decide her path. The thought steadied her even as exhaustion pulled at her limbs. She curled under the blanket, the boarding house's thin walls, letting in the distant sound of Christmas carols, a bittersweet reminder of hope she couldn't quite grasp. Across town, Ethan paced his apartment, the city's lights glittering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. His tie lay crumpled on the couch, his usually neat hair disheveled. Guilt gnawed at him, sharper than the sting of Victor's taunts. He'd dragged Amara into his world, knowing the cost to her pride, and her withdrawal in the limousine had cut deeper than any lost deal. Lena arrived, her coat dusted with snow, her expression a mix of frustration and concern. "She's gone," Lena said, setting her bag down. "Left the hotel. I checked with the front desk. She's not answering her phone." Ethan's heart sank. "I pushed her too far," he said, his voice rough. "I thought I was helping her money a way out, but I used her just like Victor said." He sank onto the couch, rubbing his face. "She must hate me." Lena crossed her arms. "She's hurt, not hateful. I told you this plan was reckless, Ethan. Amara's not some prop. She's a person with her scars. I shared my story with her, growing up poor, fighting for respect in your world. She trusted me, but she's questioning you. And that message she got, I'm sure it's Clara stirring trouble for Victor. You need to make this right." Ethan nodded, staring at the floor. He thought of his father, a businessman who'd taught him to prioritize deals over feelings, a lesson that had left him isolated. Amara's fire, her refusal to break under Victor's gaze, had stirred something in him, a desire to be better to earn her trust. "I'll find her," he said, not to save the deal, but to apologize. "She deserves that." Lena's eyes softened. "Good, but give her space tonight. She's strong, but she's been through hell. Let her come to you when she's ready." She left the apartment falling silent, save for the distant hum of the city. Amara lay awake, the boarding house's thin mattress creaking beneath her. The anonymous message still burned in her mind, but so did her resolve. She wouldn't let Victor's threats or Ethan's past define her. Tomorrow she'd return to Ethan's apartment, demanding honesty, not as his fiancée, but as herself. The snow outside fell softly, blanketing the city in quiet, and for the first time in days, Amara felt a flicker of strength, her mother's words echoing as she drifted into uneasy sleep. The morning sun filtered through the high windows of Ethan's apartment, casting long shadows across the polished hardwood. Amara stood in the doorway, her mother's blanket folded over her arm, her heart pounding with a mix of resolve and uncertainty. The boarding house's grim walls had given her clarity. She couldn't run from this mess, but she wouldn't be a pawn either. She'd come to confront Ethan, to demand the truth about his past and her role in his plans. The city outside buzzed with Christmas shoppers, but inside, the air was thick with tension. Lena appeared from the hallway, a notebook in hand, her expression shifting from surprise to relief. "Amara, you're here," she said, setting the notebook down. "I'm glad you came back. He's been a wreck since you left." Her voice was warm, but her eyes searched Amara's as if gauging her intentions. "Where is he?" Amara asked, her tone steady but guarded. She clutched the blanket tighter, its familiar weight grounding her. "In the office," Lena replied, gesturing toward a door. "I'll get him. Want some coffee while you wait?" Amara shook her head, her nerves too raw for small comforts. Lena nodded and disappeared, leaving Amara alone in the spacious living room. Papers littered the coffee table, and an empty whiskey glass sat beside a crumpled tie, signs of Ethan's unrest. The festive lights twinkling beyond the windows felt distant, unable to pierce the heaviness within. Ethan emerged, his usually crisp appearance undone by dark circles and disheveled hair. His eyes met Amara's, a flicker of hope mingling with dread. "Hi," he said, his voice hoarse, as if he hadn't spoken in hours. He gestured to the couch. "Can we talk?" Amara nodded, sitting at a distance, her posture rigid. "I got your message," she said, her words sharp. "The one from last night saying you're sorry. But I also got another anonymous one saying you've done this before, used someone for a deal. Is it true?" Her gaze pinned him, demanding honesty. Ethan's shoulders slumped, and he sat, his hands fidgeting. "Yes," he admitted, his voice low. "Years ago, I convinced a girlfriend to exaggerate our relationship for an investor. It wasn't about money, but it wasn't very ethical. She left me when she found out, and I've regretted it. I swear, Amara, that's not what this is. I was desperate to save my company, but I see now how wrong I was to pull you into it." He looked up, his eyes pleading. "I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you." Amara's chest tightened. His confession matched Lena's account, but didn't erase the sting. "You used my desperation," she said, her voice trembling. "I was starving Ethan, sleeping on the street. You dangled money and a bed, knowing I'd have no choice. And Victor, he knows about my past. He made that clear. I felt like a prop, humiliated while you played your game." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his face etched with guilt. "You're right. I was selfish and focused on the deal, not what it cost you. But these past days, being around you, I've seen your strength, You're fire. You're not a prop. You're someone I admire. I want to make this right, not for Victor, but for you." The word admire caught her off guard, softening her anger, but not her resolve. She thought of her mother, who'd taught her to stand firm, to demand respect. She said that if we talk, it's on my terms. No more lies. And I'm not here for your deal. I'm here because I want answers and a way forward that doesn't make me feel bought. Ethan nodded, his expression earnest. "I understand no more games. I want to help you, Amara, not as a transaction, but because you deserve better." Lena suggested a charity event for people experiencing homelessness here in the city. "It's a cause you know better than anyone. We could work on it together and show Victor and everyone else what matters." Amara's eyes narrowed, but the idea resonated. She'd spent nights in shelters clutching her blanket, dreaming of a way to give back. "Why should I trust you on this?" she asked. "What's in it for you?" "Nothing but a chance to do something real," Ethan said, "and earn your trust if that's possible." His voice was quiet, stripped of its usual confidence. Lena re-entered, sensing the shift in the room. "I've been pushing Ethan to focus on impact, not just profit," she said, sitting across from them. "This event could help people like you, Amara. I've seen how corporate games chew up good people. I've fought those battles myself. But I believe in this, and I think you could lead it." Amara looked between them, her heart torn. Lena's sincerity, her shared struggle felt like a bridge. Ethan's remorse seemed genuine, but trust was a fragile thing. She thought of the cold nights, the hunger, and the flicker of hope she'd held on to. "I'll do it," she said finally, her voice firm. "But not for you, Ethan. For the people out there, and me." This charity event aimed at helping people experiencing homelessness was her chance to give back, to turn her pain into something meaningful. Lena stood by a table checking a clipboard with donation lists, her efficiency a steady anchor. "We've got enough coats for 100 people, she called to Amara, her voice cutting through the din. "But we need more hands for the food line. Any ideas?" Amara nodded, her mind sharp from years of improvising survival. "I'll ask the volunteers from the shelter, they know how to manage a crowd." She glanced at the clock. The event would open to the public in hours, and every moment counted. Ethan arrived, his usual suit replaced by a simple sweater and jeans, his sleeves rolled up. He carried a crate of winter scarves, his movements hesitant but earnest. "Where do you need me?" he asked Amara, his voice devoid of its usual corporate polish. She paused, surprised by his humility. "Start sorting those by color," she said, pointing to the crate. "We'll distribute them evenly." He nodded, setting to work, drawing curious glances from volunteers unused to seeing a millionaire pitch in. As Amara organized a stack of hygiene kits, she felt Ethan's eyes on her, not scrutinizing, but with something softer, perhaps admiration. The memory of their tense confrontation lingered, but so did his apology, his promise to do better. She wasn't ready to trust him fully, but his willingness to follow her lead here spoke louder than words. She approached him holding a tray of bread rolls. "Ever baked anything?" she asked, a faint challenge in her tone. Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. "I'm more of a takeout guy, but I'm game to learn." Amara handed him an apron, guiding him to a makeshift kitchen where volunteers prepped soup. "Start with this," she said, showing him how to stir a pot of vegetable broth. Her hands moved with practiced ease, a skill honed with her mother years ago. When Ethan fumbled, spilling broth, she laughed, a genuine, unguarded sound that surprised them both. "Pathetic," she teased, nudging him. "Keep stirring or it'll burn." Ethan grinned, his awkwardness melting into focus. Their banter lightened the air, and for a moment, the weight of Victor's threats and the fake engagement faded. Volunteers nearby smiled, sensing the shift, and Lena, watching from a distance, raised an eyebrow, her lips curving in approval. As they worked, Amara shared a piece of her dream. "My mom used to make this soup," she said, her voice soft. "We'd cook together, dreaming of a bakery where we'd sell her recipes. Breads, pastries, simple stuff that felt like home. I want that someday. A place where people feel safe and welcome." She glanced at Ethan, expecting dismissal, but his eyes were steady, listening. "That sounds like something worth building," he said, his tone sincere. "Not just a business, a community. If you want, I can help, not with strings, but because I believe in it." His offer caught her off guard, stirring a warmth she wasn't ready to name. She nodded, returning to the soup, her heart a tangle of hope and caution. Later, as they set up tables for the meal service, Ethan opened up, his voice low. "My dad pushed me into the family business when I was young. I never got to choose my path, deals, deadlines, and keeping everyone happy. It made me cold, focused on winning. You're different, Amara. You fight for what matters." His confession, raw and unpolished, chipped away at her defenses. She saw a glimpse of the man behind the millionaire, someone wrestling with his burdens. The center was filled with people seeking warmth and food, their faces weary but hopeful. Amara moved among them, offering smiles and directions, her leadership natural. Ethan followed her cues, serving soup with a clumsy but genuine effort that earned nods from those in line. A young girl clutching a worn teddy bear reminded Amara of herself years ago, and she knelt to talk to her, sharing a roll. Ethan watched, his expression softening, as if seeing Amara's strength anew. Lena approached, her clipboard tucked under her arm. "This is working," she said, her voice bright. "You're a natural, Amara. And you," she added, glancing at Ethan, "you're helpful for once." They laughed, the sound a brief respite from the looming threat of Victor's sabotage. Amara felt a spark of purpose. Her mother's blanket symbolized resilience. She wasn't just surviving, she was building something real. And Ethan's presence, however uncertain, was part of it. The community center hummed with activity as the charity event peaked, the scent of hot soup and fresh bread filling the air. Snow fell gently outside, framing the windows in a soft white glow, but warmth and purpose thrived inside. Amara moved through the crowd, ensuring blankets reached shivering hands and meals were served to those in line. Her mother's blanket hung over a chair near the kitchen, a quiet symbol of her connection to this cause. Volunteers bustled around her, their laughter and chatter contrasting with the cold streets beyond. Lena stood at the entrance, coordinating new arrivals, her clipboard a constant companion. "We're running low on socks," she called to Amara, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Can you check the back for extras?" Amara nodded, weaving through the crowd, her confidence buoyed by the event's success. She'd organized this with her own hands, drawing on memories of nights spent huddling in shelters, and seeing people find relief stirred a pride she hadn't felt in years. Ethan worked nearby, stacking boxes of donated coats, his sweater dusted with snow from a recent delivery run. "Langston, but don't disrupt what we're doing here." Her words carried a defiance honed by years of surviving judgment, and a murmur of approval rippled through the nearby volunteers. Victor's eyes narrowed, his gaze flicking to Ethan. "Bold words from your so-called fiancé," he said, the word dripping with scorn. "I've told my contacts this is all a facade, a desperate play to distract from your deception. Hiring a homeless woman to pose for you. Pathetic." His voice rose, drawing more attention, and Amara felt the sting of his words, a reminder of the humiliation at his mansion. Ethan stepped forward, his voice low but fierce. "You're wrong, Victor. This event is real, and so is Amara's strength. Call it what you want, but we're here for something bigger than your games." His defense was firm, but Amara sensed his restraint, a sign he was trying to avoid a repeat of their last confrontation. Before Victor could retort, a new figure entered, a short man in a gray coat, unassuming but with a quiet authority. Lena recognized him instantly, her eyes widening. "Mr. Friedman," she whispered to Amara, hurrying to greet him. Daniel Friedman, an investor known for backing ethical ventures, shook Lena's hand, his gaze taking in the bustling center with genuine interest. "Daniel said I heard about your work here addressing Amara and Ethan. I wanted to see it for myself." His voice was calm, lacking Victor's venom, and Amara felt a flicker of hope. Volunteers continued serving meals. Their dedication was a testament to the event's authenticity. Victor seized the moment, his tone mocking. "Mr. Friedman, don't be fooled. Ethan paid this woman to play his fiancée. Now they're staging this charity to clean up the mess. It's all for show." His words hung in the air, and Amara's face flushed with shame and anger. She couldn't let Victor's lies unravel their work. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward, her voice steady. "It's true. I agreed to pose as Ethan's fiancée. I was homeless, desperate, and he offered me money. It was a mistake, one we both regret. But this event?" She gestured to the crowded room, the grateful faces. "This is real. I've lived on these streets, gone hungry, slept in the cold. I'm here because I know what it's like, and we're helping people, not pretending." Her honesty silenced the room, and volunteers nodded in support. Daniel's eyes softened, his posture attentive. "I see that," he said. "This isn't just charity, it's community." "I'm impressed, Ms. Johnson." He turned to Ethan. "And you are stepping away from corporate games to do this. That's rare." Victor's face reddened, his composure slipping. "You're buying their act," he scoffed. "They've admitted to lying." Daniel raised a hand, his tone firm. "I see people making a difference, Victor. Your accusations sound like bitterness, not truth. I invest in impact, not rumors." Defeated, Victor muttered something inaudible and stalked out, his influence fading with each step. Amara exhaled, her heart still racing. Ethan touched her arm, his voice low. "You were incredible." She nodded, her resolve strengthened. The center buzzed again, the tension lifting as volunteers resumed their work. Daniel stayed, helping distribute meals, his presence a quiet endorsement. Amara felt her mother's blanket across the room, symbolizing her strength. This wasn't just about surviving Victor, but building something lasting. The community center's main hall was quieter now, the last of the day's donations sorted, and the soup pots cooling in the kitchen. Snow fell steadily outside, dusting the windows with a soft white veil, but inside a nervous energy buzzed as Amara, Ethan, and Lena prepared for a press conference. Victor Langston's rumors had spread like wildfire across social media, branding the charity event a publicity stunt, and Amara, a paid opportunist. Her mother's blanket rested on a nearby chair, a grounding presence, as she steeled herself to face the public. Lena adjusted a makeshift podium, a crate draped with a cloth, her clipboard tucked under her arm. "The reporters are here," she said, her voice steady but urgent. "Small outlets, but they're eager for the truth. Amara, they'll want to hear from you most. You're the heart of this." Her words carried a quiet confidence, a reminder of their shared resolve. Amara nodded, her stomach churning. She wore a simple sweater and jeans, and the burgundy dress from Victor's dinner was a distant memory. The phone Ethan had given her buzzed with notifications, cruel comments calling her a gold digger. But she silenced it, focusing on the task ahead. She'd survived the streets. She could survive this. Ethan stood nearby, his casual shirt rumpled from helping all day, his eyes meeting hers, with a mix of support and apprehension. He said, "We'll do this together." His voice low. No more lies. The reporters, a small group with notebooks and cameras, gathered in a semicircle. A short-haired journalist with a sharp gaze spoke first. "Thank you for having us. Mr. Langston claims your engagement was a sham. This event is just damage control. Can you clarify?" Her tone was neutral, but her eyes probed for weakness. Ethan stepped to the microphone, his posture steady. "I'll start," he said, glancing at Amara for permission. She nodded, and he continued. "It's true I made a mistake. I asked Amara to pose as my fiancée to impress Victor Langston, whose investment I needed. It was wrong, and it hurt her. I take full responsibility. But this event," he gestured to the hall where volunteers still tidied up, "this is real. Amara's vision and leadership made it happen, and it's helped hundreds of people." Camera flashes punctuated his words, and Amara felt a surge of gratitude for his honesty, though her truth needed to be told. She took the microphone, her hands steady despite her racing heart. "I was homeless when Ethan approached me," she said, her voice clear. "I'd lost everything: my mom, my home, my dreams of a bakery. I agreed to his deal because I was desperate but not proud. What I am proud of is this." She pointed to a family nearby, clutching new blankets. "We've given food, clothes, and hope to people who need it. That's not a stunt, it's my life, and I know what it means to them." Her words hung in the air, raw and unfiltered. A volunteer, an older man who'd received a meal earlier, stepped forward. "She's right," he said, his voice gravelly. "This place gave me warmth when I had none. It's real." Others nodded, their testimonials echoing through the hall, and the reporters scribbled furiously, their skepticism softening. A younger journalist raised a hand. "Mr. Langston says you're still lying, that this is all to save Mr. Caldwell's business. How do you respond?" Amara met Ethan's gaze, a silent understanding passing between them. She leaned into the microphone. "Look around you," she said. "See the people we've helped, the volunteers working for free." Ethan secured a new investor, Daniel Friedman, funding housing for people experiencing homelessness, not because of lies, but because of what we've built here. Victor can spread his rumors, but the truth is in this room. The atmosphere shifted, a hopeful energy replacing doubt. Lena handed a reporter a folder with receipts and photos documenting the event's impact, her efficiency bolstering Amara's words. Ethan spoke again, his voice firm. "I've learned from Amara what it means to fight for something bigger than profit. Daniel Friedman's investment will build inclusive housing, and will keep going with or without Victor's approval." Reporters clamored for follow-ups as the conference ended, drawn to Amara's resilience. Lena leaned in, whispering that social media was turning in our favor. People are sharing stories about the event, drowning out Victor's lies. Amara exhaled, a weightlifter. She glanced at her mother's blanket, its presence a reminder of her strength. Later, Daniel Friedman approached, his gray coat dusted with snow. He said, "I've confirmed my investment," shaking Ethan's hand, then Amara's. "Your honesty today sealed it. Victor's losing ground. His investors are pulling back after his remarks." Amara's heart lifted. Victor's sabotage had backfired, his prejudice exposed. The community center, once a place of desperation, now glowed with purpose. Its Christmas lights, a beacon of hope, as Amara stood tall, her voice finally heard. The community center was nearly empty, its tables cleared, and the last volunteers stacked chairs under the overhead lights' dim glow. Snow continued to fall outside, blanketing New York in a quiet hush, the Christmas lights casting a warm shimmer through the windows. Amara sat on an internal staircase, her mother's tattered blanket draped over her shoulders, its familiar weight a comfort after the whirlwind of the press conference. The success of the charity event lingered in the air, a tangible victory against Victor Langston's rumors, but her heart still wrestled with what came next. Ethan joined her, easing onto the step beside her, his sweater slightly askew from the day's work. His presence felt different now, less like the calculated businessman offering her a deal, and more like someone searching for a connection. The silence between them was soft, not strained, filled with the faint hum of the city's festive pulse. Amara toyed with the edge of her coat, a faint smile on her lips. "I didn't expect today to feel like this," she said, her voice quiet. "Like we did something good." Ethan nodded, his eyes tracing the curve of her smile. "You made it happen, Amara. I was following your lead." His tone was earnest, stripped of pretense, and it stirred something in her, a cautious warmth she wasn't ready to name. She turned to him, her gaze steady. "I've been hurt before, Ethan. Not just by you, but by life, losing my mom, the streets, and people who saw me as less. I want to believe you're different now, but I'm scared. What if this us is just another deal that falls apart?" Her honesty hung between them, raw and unguarded, her fingers tightening on the blanket. Ethan's hand hovered near hers, hesitant, then rested lightly on the step. "I can't undo what I did," he said, his voice low. "Asking you to play that role was selfish, and I'll carry that regret forever. But working with you and seeing your strength these past days has changed me. I don't want to manipulate or control you. If you'll let me, I want to be someone you can rely on." Her eyes met hers, and a flicker of vulnerability broke through. Amara's heart softened, but her resolve held firm. "I need more than words, Ethan. I need to know you see me as me, not a means to an end. I want my dreams, my bakery, a life I build on my terms. If you're part of that, it has to be real." Her voice was steady, a declaration of her agency rooted in the lessons her mother had instilled. He nodded, a faint smile breaking through. "I see you, Amara. Your dream, your strength, what pulled me out of my mess. Let me support you, not because I owe you, but because I believe in you." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small, leather-bound notebook. "I got this for you, for your bakery plans, recipes, ideas, whatever you want. It's a start, no strings." Amara took the notebook, her fingers brushing his, sparking a quiet thrill. She opened it, and the blank pages became a canvas for her dreams. "This means something," she said, her voice softening. "But I'm still figuring out what we are." She tucked the notebook into her bag next to her mother's blanket, a symbol of new possibilities. They left the center, stepping into the snowy streets, the city alive with holiday cheer. Christmas lights draped across lampposts glowed warmly, and the distant sound of carols floated through the air. They walked side by side, their steps slow, as if savoring the moment. Passing a small bakery, its windows fogged with warmth and the scent of fresh pastries, Amara paused. She said, "This is what I want someday." Her eyes bright. "A place where people feel at home, like my mom made me think." Ethan stopped beside her, his gaze soft. "I can see Amara's bakery with your mom's recipes on the menu. I'll be your first customer." His playful tone drew a laugh from her, the sound light and unguarded, shattering the last of her defenses. They continued walking, the snow crunching under their feet. "You're different out here," Amara said, glancing at him. "Not the suit and tie guy who made that deal. I like this version better." Her admission was tentative, a step toward trust, and Ethan's smile widened, his eyes catching the light. "I'm trying to be better," he said. "You make me want to be." The words hung in the air, heavy but straightforward with promise. Amara felt a warmth spread through her, not just from the festive lights, but from the possibility of something real. They stood at a crosswalk, the city sparkling around them, and she let her hand brush his, a small gesture of connection. As they returned to the community center, Lena called from the entrance, waving them over. "Daniel Friedman wants to meet tomorrow," she said, her voice bright. "He's serious about the housing project thanks to you two." Amara and Ethan exchanged a glance, their shared purpose a quiet bond. The snow fell softly, blanketing the city in hope, and Amara felt her mother's strength within her, guiding her toward a future she could shape. Snow fell gently over New York, cloaking the city in a serene white, as Christmas morning dawned. The community center, now quiet, after days of bustling charity work, stood as a beacon of change, its worn walls warmed by the memory of shared meals and hope. Amara stood outside her mother's tattered blanket, draped over her shoulders, its familiar weight symbolizing resilience. She clutched the leather-bound notebook Ethan had given her, its pages already filling with sketches of her dreamed-of bakery recipes, for her mother's cornbread ideas, for a cozy space where anyone could feel at home. Ethan approached, his breath visible in the crisp air, his casual jacket a far cry from the suits of their first meeting. His eyes carried a quiet determination, tempered by the humility he'd gained through their journey. "Ready for the meeting?" he asked, nodding toward a car waiting to take them to Daniel Friedman's office. Amara smiled, a flicker of excitement breaking through her usual caution. "Let's do this," she said, her voice steady, her resolve unshaken by the shadows of Victor Langston's rumors. The drive to Daniel's office was short, the city's festive lights twinkling through the snow. Inside the office was simple, with wooden furniture and a window framing snow-dusted trees. In a wool sweater, Daniel greeted them warmly, his handshake firm. He said, "I've finalized the investment, spreading blueprints across a table, housing units for people experiencing homelessness with job training and support programs. Amara, your work at the center convinced me this is more than a business deal. It's a movement." Amara's heart swelled, the weight of her past nights spent shivering under awnings, fueling her pride. "I want this to be a place where people can rebuild like I'm trying to," she said, her voice clear. "Not just shelter, but a chance to dream again." Ethan nodded, his gaze steady on her, silently acknowledging her leadership. Daniel smiled, jotting notes. "That's the vision. Ethan, you're covering initial costs, and I'm bringing in partners for long-term funding. But Amara, I'd like you to consult on the project. Your experience is invaluable." The offer caught her off guard, a validation of her strength. She agreed, and her notebook was a reminder of her dreams taking shape. Lena joined them, her clipboard replaced by a tablet buzzing with updates. "Victor's facing backlash," she said, her tone sharp with satisfaction. "His investors are pulling out after his remarks at the center hit the news. Blogs call him out for prejudice, and his firm scrambles to save face." Amara felt a quiet triumph. Victor's attempt to sabotage them had only exposed his flaws, his influence crumbling under the weight of truth. Back at the community center, Amara enrolled in a culinary program funded by Daniel's initiative, a step toward her bakery dream. She spent afternoons studying recipes, her mother's cornbread at the heart of her plans, and evenings planning the housing project with Ethan and Lena. Their partnership had evolved, built on honesty rather than deals. Ethan's support was steady, and he never overstepped his actions, proving his commitment to change. One evening, they slipped away from the center, borrowing bicycles from a local shop, adorned with festive bows. The snowy streets glowed with Christmas lights, their colors dancing on the pavement. Amara pedaled ahead, her laughter ringing as she wove through pedestrians, Ethan trailing with a grin, his balance shaky but determined. They stopped in a quiet park, where twinkling lights framed bare trees, the air crisp with possibility. Amara teased, "You're getting the hang of it," and she adjusted her scarf as Ethan steadied his bike. "But don't quit your day job." Her playful jab drew a chuckle, his eyes bright with a new, unforced warmth. "If I crash, it's your fault for challenging me." He shot back, his tone light, but his gaze lingering. "Amara, This us, this moment. It feels right. No lies, no games. Just you and me, figuring it out. His words were simple, but they carried the weight of their shared journey from deception to trust. Amara's heart fluttered, her guard softening. It does, she admitted, her voice soft. But I'm still me, independent, stubborn. If we're doing this, it's as equals. She held his gaze, her mother's strength echoing in her words. Ethan agreed, his hand brushing hers on the handlebars. And when your bakery opens, I'm still claiming first customer. His grin was boyish, and Amara laughed, the sound echoing through the park, a melody of new beginnings. As they pedaled back, the city's lights glowed warmer, the snow a blank canvas for their future. Amara clutched her notebook, her mother's blanket tucked in her bag, both symbols of a past that had shaped her and a future she was ready to build. With Ethan by her side, not as a savior, but as a partner, she felt prepared to face whatever came next, and her dreams were no longer out of reach.